Tommy Case. I live in a historic community just west of Georgetown called Great Crossings. I've been involved in fiddle making since 2002. I learned part of the trade that I know about from my mentor in Franklin County. His name was Bill Huckabee. He helped me through 2 violins that I made under his close supervision. And then as I worked on additional violins, me and another friend who worked together, his name is Lucian Parker, he helped me or mentored me through other violins that I made as well. I also took, in 2012 and 13, I took another apprenticeship from Art Mize in Lexington. He is a great luthier. He sells and restores violins. He has a shop near Transylvania University. So that is basically my formal education. And of course, I also do a lot of research online. Yeah. And try to keep up with the new practices. But that's my background in the making process. And I always said making an instrument and putting your name inside of it is like, throwing a bottle in the ocean. Usually people take care of instruments, and at some time in the future somebody will look inside and say, Tommy Case, I wonder who that fellow was, and the research. So it's sort of a legacy to me to make instruments and have your name involved with them. When you make an instrument, each time you try to improve and you think, well, when I carve the belly or the top on this particular violin, I'm going to include a little bit more height in it to make a little bit more air volume. Hopefully it'll improve the tone, and that's what everybody's trying to do, is trying to make an instrument that people will listen to, be interested in, and think that it sounds good. Well, one thing that my apprenticeship that I mentioned with Bill Huckabee, Bill was at the end of his life when he took me and 2 or 3 other people sort of under his wing. One guy, he made bows, and then this Lucian Parker and I made fiddles together. I told him, I said, Bill, as I go through this, if I ever find a young person or persons that's really interested, in learning how to make a violin and going through the basic steps that you've given me, I will make sure that I pass that on. And really, that's really drives me more than anything. And that was a sort of a promise that I made to him, toward the end of his life.
So my name is Daniel Graham, and I'm a woodworker, craftsman, artist in Georgetown, Kentucky. And I recently, in the last year and a half, have gotten into playing the banjo and started on a weird kind of route with that. Had someone mention that I had been here for 13 years. And I grew up in a military family, so I moved around my entire life. And when I realized that this is the first time I've lived anywhere longer than 2 years, and it's the first time I've been landlocked because I grew up in a Navy family, it kind of resonated that this was more home than I realized for my kids, and kind of for who I am. And so I thought it would be nice to learn to play the banjo, at least a couple songs on it, since I'm kind of from Kentucky now. And but being who I am, I thought, well, if I'm going to learn to play the banjo, I should probably make a banjo to learn on. And so I made a banjo. And in doing so, learned a lot about kind of the history of the instrument and what it really meant around my community. And so that got me on a path of other instruments. I've made a couple of dulcimers, and now I'm really interested in making a fiddle. And I think that would be really great to kind of learn about that culture and learn about that process found in that instrument and what surrounds it. And so I approached Tommy through a mutual friend named John Reister, because John Reister is the one that actually taught me a lot about banjo playing and making, incidentally. We made a fair trade, I think, and he says otherwise, but I had kind of started learning some banjo on my own and realized I'd love to learn a lot more. And he wanted a banjo that doesn't exist, and so I made it for him. So I made him a banjo, and he gave me lessons. And so that was our fair trade. He may say otherwise, like I said. But that got me into kind of seeing some unique parts of the instrument and how they actually affected the sound and what I could make and what I couldn't make. And yeah, so that's kind of where I got to. I'm hoping out of this apprenticeship that I can learn not only the skill from Tommy of making these instruments, or being able to make these instruments, but also some of the impact it has on the community around us and ourselves as musicians and people. What I think I do differently than most instrument makers is I am interested in the sound, obviously, but I like them to be unique. I like them to be one of a kind, and not just one of a kind in how they sound, but how they look and how they feel and kind of the emotions that come out of the instrument for the person playing it. So when I made my banjo, I made it something I'd never seen before, which was an image all the way down the fingerboard. I thought that would be really interesting and really nice to see and to play. And I made everything from scratch, and that was really important to me, is not just to buy a kit or buy components and put it together and said that I made it. I wanted to actually make it. So every nut, every screw, every piece of wood, everything, except for the head, the resonating head, and the tuners, because I can't make those, I made. And so I thought that was really important. And so any instrument that I try and make, I try and make with a unique kind of perspective, something I haven't seen before, or something I think is missing. That's a big part of what I do, is kind of assessing things and seeing what I think is missing and what should be there. So I know I made a banjo this last year I call the glass bottom banjo. And it's a banjo that has an image of a woman rowing across a lake in the actual head of the instrument. I'd made a series of prints and etchings before that were circular, and they had circle frames with circle glass, mounted on a wall for an art exhibition. And I started to look at the banjo almost as a frame in a way. And so I could actually create an image that would exist inside the instrument and kind of make the images create sound or create music, which I thought was kind of interesting. So my kids growing up around this area are going to have an experience that I did not have, and that's with this kind of old-time music. And so learning some of these songs and having them dance to them, sing to them, has been a real kind of wonderful enrichment part of our family life. So